Hey boys and girls, I hope you're doing well. We're going to start doing something a little new. We're going to be doing grammar lessons on YouTube. So I know you guys all have this grammar workshop book. If you will get your book, if you don't have it, you're going to need your book, a pencil, and a highlighter right now. So if you'll turn in your books, I've written the page number up here at the top to page 156. What we're going to do first is talk about the top section of the lesson. We're doing lesson 34, subject pronouns. So in your book, you have some different page numbers, but like I said, your book is page 156. And we are going to read the top part, just like we normally do in class. Usually, Mrs. Foreman or Mrs. Barnett or Mrs. Kellett will call on you to read the examples, kind of in that top blue section. And if you remember, there's these squares at the top. There's 3 squares, and I've written the squares out on my board, and I'm getting ready to talk to you about them, and that's where you might want your highlighter, okay? Also, in your book, there's a section of examples. We're going to come back and read that, but right now, I'm just going to talk to you about the squares, because that's the big part of the lesson. And then after this video, I'll sign off, and you guys can do part A and B yourselves, and I'll have a video where we go over the answers together, okay? So first, like I said, we're going to talk about subject pronouns. We've reviewed nouns, adjectives, and verbs, and now we're doing subject pronouns. So the first square, and if you've got your highlighter, feel free to do this in the top of your book. And if you would rather just look at my board right now, you can do that too, okay? So the first square says, a pronoun is a word that takes the place of one or more nouns. And you remember a noun is a person, place, or thing. Okay, so that's the definition of a pronoun. The next square says a subject pronoun takes the place of the noun or nouns in the subject. It is used as the subject of a sentence. Okay, and then in our books we have several examples. We're going to come back to those examples. I'm going to read them in a minute. But first I wanted to go through the next square. Okay, so we've talked about the pronoun and the subject pronoun. Now, down here at my last square in your book, these are the subject pronouns. The pronoun you can be singular or plural. If you remember in your books, a lot of times when we do part A and B together, there's a list at the top, and that's what this list is. And you can always reference this box if you need some help in the lesson and if you're confused, okay? So, the singular pronouns that we're going to see are I, you, he, she, and it. The plural pronouns are we, you, remember it said you could be singular or plural, and they. And one important thing to remember, the pronoun I is always capitalized. Remember, if you ever write a lowercase I and you're writing in your stories, and we always come by with our pens and markers and we put a capital I. So that's what I want you to remember there. Now, everything I've written on my board is in your book. Now I'm going to take a minute, I'm going to lean that back, and we're just going to go through the examples together. Now at this point, I want you to follow along. Okay, my board's going to slide. I want you to follow along in your book right here with me, okay? And this is a point in the class where we would call on someone to read a sentence, but this is where we're really going to talk about the lesson, okay? So the first sentence says, Mary had a little lamb. Wow, what could I use to change Mary? It stays Mary, but I'm using a different word to take the place of Mary. Mary is singular, right? That's one person. That's one girl. So if you're confused, you could go back to your singular list right here. But I bet you guys all know, and you see the example, she. She had a little lamb. The meaning of my sentence hasn't changed. Mary had a little lamb, and I've replaced it with the subject pronoun she. She had a little lamb. Next, we're going to do something plural. Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill went up the hill. How else could I say that with a subject pronoun? You can look at your list or you read the example. They went up the hill. The next one, the spider made a web. It made a web. It takes the place of spider, the spider. Dad and I love nursery rhymes. We love nursery rhymes. Sounds pretty easy, right? You guys can figure that out. The other one that I wanted to talk about one last time was you. you being plural. That you might think that's confusing. An example of that is if I'm telling you all in the class, boys and girls, you need to take your Wordly Wise book home tonight. So I said you, but I'm talking about boys and girls. So that's an example of how you could be used singular or plural. Now, what I want you to do, I'm getting ready to end this video soon. You're going to look in your book, part A and B, just like in class. You're doing page 156 and page 157. That's all I want you to do, A and B, and then stop. And we'll have another video link later for you to click on where you can check your work. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or message me. If some of you guys reach out to me through Marco Polo or anything like that, you are welcome to do that if you have questions. I'm always here to answer them for you. But I think you guys can handle it. So A and B, 156 and 157. And I look forward to doing these little YouTube lessons on grammar so you can follow along in your book. Thank you guys. Talk to you later. Goodbye.